Let's bring in Samir Shahata. He's an associate professor of Middle Eastern politics at the University of Oklahoma. He joins us via Skype from Norman in Oklahoma. We've seen some strong comments from both President Trump and the Vice President Mike Pence. How significant are these comments from the U.S. administration, and why have Trump and Pence responded now?
Well, I think they've had to respond. I mean, this has been something that the international community has spoken about now for several days. Mr. Erdogan and the Turkish government have made some strong claims, and there is a great deal of concern about Mr. Khashoggi's whereabouts. This would be, incredibly obscene, outrageous act if it really had occurred that he was killed in the consulate. And I think they felt pressure to respond, as have many American senators and Congress people. So I think they needed to respond, and Mr. Pence did so in a tweet, and Mr. Trump did so in response to a question.
And how are the Saudis then likely to view what Trump and various U.S. senators have responded? I mean, is this likely to put strain on the relationship between Washington and Riyadh, which many see as pretty cozy anyway?
I think there's no question that this is going to put some strain on the Saudis. I think they're going to have to come up with better answers as to what happened. As you implied, the relationship between Mr. Trump and Mohammed bin Salman and the Saudi regime has been very strong, very positive, has been unquestioning with regard to human rights issues in Saudi Arabia or Saudi Arabia's doings elsewhere, such as with regard to the Yemen war or, for example, the blockade of Qatar or other activities. So this could change things slightly. I don't think it's going to be the unraveling of the relationship. As you know, it's one that's existed since 1945 and one that both countries benefit from in some sense, according to some.
Yeah, it's an interesting point you make, Sama, because, I mean, how much leverage does Washington really have over the Saudis? I mean, Mike Pence says the world deserves answers, but can Washington pressure Riyadh for an open and honest account of what actually happened?
Well, if they really wanted to, they could, because the United States has a tremendous amount of leverage that they can apply to Saudi Arabia as well as to other countries. The leading suppliers of arms, not only for use in the Yemen war, but with regard to Saudi defense. Of course, the U.S. now is very much putting pressure on Iran, considered a rival of Saudi Arabia. There's questions about support for the Saudi regime itself, domestically and so on. So if the United States wanted to put maximum pressure on Saudi Arabia, they could. I don't think that's going to happen, as I said, not under this administration, which has shown very little interest in issues of human rights or rule of law or elections or democracy and so on. But I do think it's going to change the impression, the image, the narrative of Mohammed bin Salman as some kind of a reformer, which many people in Washington seem to have believed up until now.
Just a final thought from you, Samir. I mean, how is this likely to play out diplomatically and politically? And what about Turkey and its relationship with Saudi Arabia? Is this likely to cause big problems between them?
It could. I mean, and it should, of course, if it was the case that he was murdered. At the same time, one has to be a little bit cynical. There could be some kind of an arrangement that's done between the Saudis and the Turks for their mutual interests that maintains their relationship and that gets them out of this crisis. But yes, the relationship that will suffer the most will be the bilateral relationship between Turkey and Saudi Arabia.
Samir Shahata, thank you for talking to Al Jazeera.
Thank you.